Thanks for joining me on this Sunday night. There's been a lot that's been happening in Chicagoland, and even more is going to happen. And I'm talking about the ICE operations because they are not going to back down. Now we've got Trump sending about 300 troops, but it has been back days and nights of the protesters all over the city, including at the Broadview station. Here's what Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino said on the Chicago operations, talking with a News Nation reporter. Take a listen.
What would you say to the people who are against your operations right now when you're going and doing something like this to keep the community safe? What would you say to those people who are saying, you know, calling you guys Gestapo, things like that as you're walking around? What would you say to them?
You know, I think the first thing I would say is, how about you live in the apartment next door to Trinidad Aragua members that are trafficking in prostitution, guns, drugs, and taking advantage of American citizens in a violent way. Why don't you live next to them and then see how much of a Gestapo or a Nazi we are?
What's the end game here? What's the goal?
Well, the end game tonight, obviously, is to make that area a safe place. We're going to remove all illegal aliens, especially if it's Trinidad Aragua, but any and all illegal aliens, and that's going to make this community a safer place.
Well, that was obviously in discussion of what happened on the South Shore when they, ICE came in on a Tuesday morning, early in the morning with full force, and they went through an apartment building, then had been basically taken over by gangs. And they arrested quite a few people. Some of them were citizens. But you know what? They have that power. Well, here to discuss all of the chaos, what's going on, and what to expect from this is Chuck Hernandez. He's retired Chicago Police Department detective, and he's the chairman of the Chicago Republican Party. Chuck, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, Jeanne, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, except that I watched this chaos, and I know that it's been created by Pritzker and his minions who just keep on parroting the fact that, you know, ICE is Nazis, ICE are supposed to be attacked, and you saw that happen. In fact, I think one of the most alarming things, and obviously it made national news, is that a caravan of about 10 ICE vehicles were surrounded and blocked, and in one case rammed, and that resulted in a shooting incident with ICE shooting one of the protesters, and that became, of course, national news. So tell me, what do you think is going on there? Did they act appropriately? And then even more so, we find out that CBD was called off. The 911 call was made to them, and then they were said, you are not there to assist ICE. Is that all true? And what are you hearing from your friends?
Yeah, the whole thing, I got to be honest, the whole thing is infuriating. Anybody who's in law enforcement, and I was in law enforcement for 28 years and devoted myself to it, to hear that the Chicago Police Department, the brass, and I want to make that clear because that's the brass, the upper level, they are political in nature now because of their appointments and that kind of thing. The rank and file guys, we support law enforcement across the board. And for the brass to give out that kind of an order to not back up law enforcement, sworn law enforcement officers, that is infuriating. So I'm glad to hear that the national FOP, the Illinois FOP, all of law enforcement has come out against that and said there is no way that you do not back up law enforcement officers, federal law enforcement officers that are here. And so what we're seeing is a real escalation. And the words of Pritzker, the words of Mayor Johnson calling law enforcement a disease, this has to be repudiated. These people are unhinged. They're out of their mind. They have Trump derangement syndrome to the fullest, and they're not capable of governing anymore. So anybody that has common sense can see right now this Democrat Party stands for nothing but hate. And these protesters are crossing the line. They're no longer protesters. They're turning into domestic terrorists.
Absolutely. And I know you and I were at that Broadview location about 2 weeks ago. We were there for a joint press conference with the Ted Dabrowski campaign. And, it was pretty peaceful there. Sure, there were some nut jobs walking around, obviously, folks in the middle of the day. I don't know. They must be on public welfare. Who knows? But I don't understand how you can, not be working during the middle of the day like that. But, it's really changed since then. It's like occupied all the time. And then finally, last night, you finally had Illinois State Police get involved, barriered off with concrete blocks, the parkway, and said, you're staying behind this, and we're going to have a clear egress and ingress to the facility. Now, why didn't that happen 3 weeks ago? What's wrong with people?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That Broadview center is in a very small suburb of Broadview. They happen to have about 20 sworn law enforcement officers. So this has been kind of taxing to them to be able to to have enough bodies up to respond to 911 calls and to monitor that area as well. So I'm glad to see that the county, the state is sending in like reinforcements. That little department was not able to handle that, and for like whatever reason, the mayor had her political like leanings as well and all that, but they needed a bigger law enforcement contingency to handle that. So, and now we're seeing, because they did not handle things the right way, and because our these ICE agents are being attacked, and so now Trump is gonna call up the National Guard, which he threatened all along, and he's going to do it now, and rightfully so. We see what happens when the governor and the mayor are antagonizing, and they're also undermining law enforcement. I mean, this now we need that backup, and we need the National Guard here. So that's what's going to happen, and I'm glad to see it.
Well, how do the police feel about the National Guard come in? Do they feel, I imagine that they're grateful for that, or do they feel like this should be handled differently anyway? I mean, I don't know if they probably don't agree with the sanctuary state status. Let's face it, none of this chaos would have to go on if we would just cooperate with federal enforcement when we have a criminal illegal in the jails, and just hand them over that way. And in the midst of all of not doing that is when you get the collateral illegals that are rounded up and taken away. And that seems to be what's gathering the headlines for the leftists.
Yes, that's absolutely right. This could be solved right away, and that's what Ted Dabrowski was talking about that day is the end of the sanctuary city, the end of the sanctuary state. We work with our federal law enforcement partners, and we turn over criminal illegal aliens. When you look at this operation, they call it Operation Midway Blitz, and they've been putting out every day. They're putting out the kind of individuals the kind of criminals that they're arresting. I mean, guys for murder, rape, across the board, robberies, injuring and hurting children. I mean, really dirtbags, the worst of the worst. And these are the people that the Dalia Ramirez, Chuy Garcia, our governor, our mayor, this is who they're behind and trying to run cover for. People who are clear, they're public safety threats, and they need to be removed from our country.
Yeah, meanwhile, 33 shot in October alone. Okay, this is only day 6 of October. 33 shot, 7 killed. 8 total. 8 shot and killed. 8 total homicides.
Yeah,
it's not like this is really a safe environment, and they want to focus on ICE.
Yeah, that's why we really, the mayor is laughable when he talks about we have it under control. We don't need the help. We absolutely need help. I was a police here for over 28 years. We had manpower issues before I left. It's only exacerbated and gotten worse. We need the manpower. We don't have the manpower. And basically, there's areas over here where I live on the northwest side at night. There's maybe 5 or 6 officers up for a huge area. It's a big geographical area, and they just don't have enough bodies. So we need the help, all the help that we can get. Trump is offering the help, and we need to take him up on it. We need to work with our federal partners, and we need to clean up Chicago.
Well, thanks a lot for joining me. That's Chuck Hernandez, a retired Chicago Police Department detective and chair of the Chicago Republican Party. Thanks a lot for joining me on The Real Story, Chuck.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be right back with Jim Urio. We're going to talk about